Why do we dance? Well, it depends on who you ask. For some, it's a hobby or it's a sport. For me and my friends, it's our weekend tradition. And for others, it's an actual cultural tradition. But for all of us, it's actually human instinct. Because human evolution is a fascinating journey. It's full of surprising quirks and continuities. Many of the things that we do today, mostly without thought, is actually evidence of our ancestors' lives. There's this idea that dance must have truly played a significant role in human evolution. I mean, think about it. Dance exists in every culture across the globe, from the most remote tribes to the biggest of cities. Dance transcends language, geography, and time. And it begins from the moment that we are born. Let me tell you about the studies done on dancing babies. About 120 tiny participants were exposed to all these different sounds, from human speech to drum beats to classical music. Now, the results of the study have showed that the instinctive movement of bopping your head along or tapping your foot along to music is an ability that occurs long before we can even speak our first word. So this fundamentally challenges the idea that dance is a skill picked up later in life. It suggests that we are quite literally born to dance. It's human instinct. But what for exactly? So assuming that we're all born with this incredibly amazing evolutionary mechanism for dancing, what possible survival function could this serve? I mean, we know that birds like to dance for the purpose of courtship and mating. Sometimes it even works for people. But there's one powerful theory as to why we dance, and it's that dance is a fundamental form of communication. And perhaps even more importantly, it's a form of social bonding. When everyone's moving in the same way to the same music, dancing then becomes this living, breathing activity. But what keeps a dance alive in the first place? I want to take a very unlikely yet well-known example, the Macarena. So it's the dance transmission that took over the world. We're all very familiar with it. The Macarena gained its popularity back in the mid-1990s, but the origins of the Macarena trace back to a Spanish dance song by the duo Los Del Rio. The preservation of this dance was not been achieved through formal archiving or through academic study. No, the preservation of this dance was achieved through its sheer global presence and its brilliant, accessible design. It's fun, it's simple, and easy for all individuals of all levels and all ages. You didn't need to speak Spanish to do the Macarena. You simply watched, and then you imitated, and then you joined in. The Macarena has spread like wildfire. These steps were passed on through observation and imitation at countless social gatherings, weddings, parties, and school dances, ensuring its continuous performance and recognition for decades to come. These steps are now preserved in history. The Macarena is still well and truly alive today, decades after the song's first release, whether or not that was the intention of the original artist. But what about the dances that are a little bit more complicated? The kinds of dances that carry thousands of years of stories, culture, and maybe even information. For example, the cultural dances of Indigenous people in Australia. See, unlike the Macarena, Indigenous dances are a little bit more complex and often require teaching. These dances have been passed on from generation to generation for tens of thousands of years, making them some of the oldest living cultural traditions in the world. Now, in my family, while we do enjoy the Macarena from time to time, our important events would often feature Indigenous traditional dance. Now, the dances being made up of my uncles, my aunties, and my cousins would get together and practice for weeks leading up to these events. The act of teaching and practicing these dances becomes the party before the party. So in that, it strengthens our connection to each other, to our family, to our culture, and to our islands all the way back in the Torres Strait. Now, we're just one group that does this. Throughout history, and now, Indigenous people in Australia will often dance as part of ceremonies. But more importantly, dance is also used to share information about Indigenous knowledge. This knowledge is about the country, the land itself, the animals, the plants, the seasons, and all the interactions in between them. This knowledge is vital in making sure that food and resources are available and then remained available, not just for the next season or the next year, but for the next generations to come. I suppose you could say that the knowledge and the ability to pass down that knowledge through dance is a sustainability model centuries ahead of its time. So how do we access the information that was created all those years ago from the very people taking care of this land? Then how do we preserve that information in its original form of dance? So usually, this particular dance transmission will rely on intergenerational connections and direct participation. So in other words, what that means is that for a dance to remain alive, that knowledge has to exist inside of someone who is still alive. But what if we could change that? We have new tools and technologies being developed every day to preserve information. We have audio recordings of languages, we have oral history, and we have written history. We have our Indigenous art proudly displayed in museums all over the world. But dance is different, because unlike language and history and art, human movement, especially dance, happens in 3 dimensions. So imagine a technology that could perfectly preserve these movements, allowing us not to just watch, but to truly understand and analyze Indigenous dance. That technology is 3D motion capture, and it holds the key to keeping a dance alive forever. Now I know it all sounds very futuristic, but I know that almost everyone here has seen 3D motion capture technology before, because I know almost everyone here has seen the 2009 box office hit of Avatar. Now, if you haven't watched it, I won't spoil it for you. But what I will tell you is that Avatar earned over $2.9 billion and became the highest grossing film in the world. Now, the success of this movie is arguably due to its absolutely incredible visual effects. And those effects were created with 3D motion capture technology. And this is how it works. The actors in Avatar were fitted with reflective trackers all over their bodies, and then high-speed cameras would record their movements. And then computer models would then take that data and create movie magic on screen. Now, I know you're probably thinking, why do we need 3D motion capture technology for Indigenous dance? Why don't we just, record a video? We're not trying to make any kind of movie magic here. Well, video recording devices are now so accessible that they do fit inside of our pockets and on our phones. Unfortunately, however, it's just not good enough. When you're filming someone head-on, you're seeing all of what's happening here, but you're missing so much of what's happening to the sides of their body and the rotations of their body. I mean, think about a pirouette or another complex spin. A video will show you the turn, but it won't show you the body's alignment. It's not going to show you the subtle shifts in balance. And it's not going to show you all the joints throughout the particular movement. That's because, recording a video, by its very nature, is very two-dimensional. It's like trying to understand a sculpture by just looking at a single photograph of it. Whereas Indigenous dance is incredibly rich and complex, and it utilizes all 3 anatomical planes of motion. The sagittal plane, the forward and backwards movements, the frontal plane, the side-to-side movements, and the transverse plane, which is all the rotational movements. So to truly capture Indigenous dance and to preserve it, we need to record it in 3 dimensions. This technology allows us to record dance in a much more detailed and accurate way than ever before. So similar to the movie Avatar, the idea is simple. We put reflective markers on the dancer's body, multiple high-speed cameras will capture their performance, and then we'll track these performances. So as the dancer moves, the cameras capture their precise movements in a very 3-dimensional space, millisecond by millisecond. Now, this is no longer just a recording. It's creating a digital twin. Every subtle shift, every leap, every grand expressive gesture is captured. 3D motion capture technology unlocks a new level of insight. So now, not only can we just understand what a dancer does, but how they do it. It allows us to study, learn from, and appreciate movement in a way that we never thought possible before. Computer models will take this data and will calculate precise measurements, joint angles at every point in time, the dynamic forces within the body and the forces between the dancer's feet and the ground. By using this technology, we can create these incredibly multifaceted records of dance. These records can include not just traditional video, but realistic digital avatars that can be replayed and manipulated and stored forever. So we've seen what's possible, but what exactly does that mean for us? This isn't just about preservation. It's about having the data and the tools to teach the next generation of dancers. It's about creating a more immersive and accessible learning experience. It's about bridging cultures through accurate digital records. It's about understanding the Indigenous knowledges embedded in these dances, and then also being able to preserve that knowledge in its original form of dance. With 3D motion capture technology, we're doing more than just recording movements. We're safeguarding stories, culture, knowledge, and also we're safeguarding that human connection that we have to each other and to those who came before us. So can we keep a dance alive forever? Yes, we can.